All right, 8:04 p.m. Hello, everybody. My name is Sanjay Shanoy. You might already know it. Session number 5 of HIIT SEO, and we are live. Hi, Daud. I'm doing great. Mallikarjun, Rashi, good evening to you too. Abdul, Ram Lokesh, Raksha, Anamika, Anmol, Avinash. Good to see you guys. Devanjali, Anmol, Indrani, Sanjeev. Before we proceed, how was assignment number 4? Let me know in the chat box. How was the assignment? What was your experience like? Easy, Shandar, excited. What are you excited for, Arshida? Awesome, fantastic, all-rounder assignment. Pretty easy, amazing, simple, but technical. Hectic, damn trying, super interesting. Okay, great, fantastic. Good to know that you guys had a great time doing assignment number 4. Having said that, what I noticed in the previous assignments was that a very concerning trend is that when you guys are writing your headlines, I'm not saying that everybody is doing it, but quite a lot of people were doing it, which is why I thought that I should address this in today's session, especially when it comes to headlines, since I think I've made it clear enough that headlines are probably one of the most important elements of your article or the content that you're going to be creating, right? So I noticed that a lot of people have just slapped their keyword in paper, potent headline generator, generated some headlines which might not even make sense, and just like pasted it in the assignments. We have not rejected them. We have gone ahead and approved them. But it is very important that you make sure that you put in some effort, like little bit more effort in actually making sure your headlines are great. The whole reason I'm making you do that is because you have choice, right? You can choose between a bunch of different headlines, but if you have to choose between like bunch of 10, 20 garbage headlines, then it's not going to make any sense at all. You might as well go with just like one headline in the first place, right? So which is why it is very, very important that you put in some kind of effort to make sure that all of the options that you are creating for headlines is actually good. Like having said that, like I said, I am not going to like go out there and like reject your assignment based on that. There is a reason why I'm making you do that. Please make sure that you actually do it. Okay. So I just thought I'll like let you guys know about it. So I think with having said that, we can get started with session number 5. We are almost 50% through with HIT SEO, guys. How is your journey so far? Let me know in the chat box and we'll get started with session number 5. And we have more than 75 people already live. Mind blowing, exciting, unforgettable. Okay, great, fantastic. Journey is great. 50% is done. Journey was well optimized. Well played, Shriyog. Extra points for that. Fantastic. Good to know that. Didn't feel like 5 weeks already smooth. Once this is over, would be a part of HIT content. Good to see you getting better with each session. It'll be very useful in getting more customers. Absolutely. Fantastic. So today's session is going to be really, really exciting. You're going to be learning a lot of different things, a lot of new things. So what I would request is that put your phones away and have complete focus for the next hour and a half, right? So that is very, very important. Tell your kids, your dogs, your parents, your neighbors, everybody to shut up for the next 1 hour, one and a half hours, because it's very important for you guys to like pay attention and focus on what is being taught in this particular session. The reason why I'm telling you this is because it can get a little heavy. And as always, I've done my very best to like simplify it as much as possible so that everybody actually understands it and therefore they can go out there and like, actually implement it as well, right? So having said that, let's get started with session number 5. It's going to be about technical SEO part 2. So we learned a bunch of different things in part 1. So it's going to be an extension of technical SEO itself. We're going to be doing a bunch of different things. The main thing being WordPress speed optimization. Now, how many people here have booked a Tatkal ticket on IRCTC? And if you have, how was your experience? Let me know in the chat box how your experience was while you were trying to book a Tatkal ticket or any regular ticket for that matter. Bad, says Mitra. Amazing, says Anmol. Okay. Wow. Too bad, says Khalil. Frustrating, slow. Okay. What else? Running like that. Mind blowing, says Rohit. Bad is an understatement. Sanjeev says it was pretty good. Okay. Fair enough. Fastest finger first. Yes. Rat chase. Earlier it was bad. Yeah. Hard in your mouth. Yes. Good one, Amay. Not confirmed in Tatkal. Had applied for Tatkal password, got pretty quickly. Now it's better. Okay, fantastic. So for most people here, dropped my plan to travel, says Rashi. Wow, that's one way to like say it was like a very bad experience. Sumati says it was irritating. Okay, fantastic. So it's now I hope that every single one of you here would agree that a slow website is terribly frustrating. Would you guys agree with that? Just type in A in the chat box if you guys agree with that, right? It's absolutely frustrating as a user to go out there and interact with any slow website. Now you can replace IRCTC with any other website. Now IRCTC might not necessarily be the best example of that, because it's just that there are too many people trying to log in and like book tickets and all of those things. But regardless, you might have come across websites that are terribly slow. It's not loading properly. Even if it is loading, some of the elements are not loading and all of those kind of things, right? So it's extremely frustrating, which is why having a well optimized website for speed is very, very important, both for users as well as for the crawlers, right? So making a site faster improves the user experience while also increasing your crawl rate. We all read about how crawling is important, robots.txt, site maps, and a bunch of different things in the last session. You guys know how important crawling is. And if your site loads slow, not only is it irritating and frustrating to your users, but it is also extremely irritating and frustrating to the crawlers as well. So making your website load faster becomes all the more important. But before you get into optimizing your site for speed, you need to first benchmark it and then work on top of it. You need to first figure out where are you in terms of speed, in terms of loading and all of those things, and then work on top of it. And the best way to do it is using something called as Google Page Speed Insights. How many people have tried it? Has anyone gone ahead and like tried Google Page Speed Insights? Okay, a couple of people have. Raj has, Malika Arjun has, Arunabha Chakraborty has, Ram Lokesh has, Bhaskar has. Okay, a bunch of people have already gone ahead and tried it. So in very simple terms, what happens is, okay, you know what? I'll just first show you guys how it looks like. What are the different things that are that is shown as part of Google Page Speed Insights, and therefore how you can go ahead and benchmark it for yourself. Okay, so as a flex, what I did was I actually created a very in-depth post about how to increase your WordPress website speed and gone ahead and optimized that for absolute speed. As you can see, it got 100 on 100 on Google Page Speed Insights. Having said that, it is absolutely not necessary for you guys to always aim for 100 on 100. This is just to like prove a point. I did it and like I'm very happy with it. But what are the different things that you can see here? So what you can see here, as soon as you put a URL here, so ideally speaking, you should be putting a URL to a particular post into this particular tool, and then it'll give you a score on 100, right? It'll tell you like how good you are or bad you are and all of those things. Now, very importantly, you'll see two different sets of data here. One is field data and the other one is lab data, right? So your field data is basically coming in from users' actual experience of your website, right? So the way Google collects this is via Google Chrome, whatever the browser you're using. So they have something called as the Chrome Experience Report. So they use that to gather user data and then go ahead and tell people that, hey, you know what, this is good, this is bad, and all of those things. So you have a bunch of metrics here. We'll get into each of these metrics and help you understand what these metrics are and how you can improve these metrics using some of the tools that I'll be providing to you guys. Okay, so this is your field data and this is your lab data. So your lab data is basically similar metrics that are tracked, but they are tracked in perfect conditions, right? Say for example, this metric here, first contentful paint, FCP, is slightly higher here, but it's absolutely great in lab data. Does anyone want to take a guess as to why this is the case? Why your lab data is so much better than your field data when it comes to your user experience and all of those things? Anybody wants to take a guess? Real quick. Nobody? Wow. Control conditions. Yeah, Indrani. Server high. Okay. Control conditions is absolutely correct, right? So your lab data is like under ideal conditions, and your field data, since it's actual user data, now what is going to happen here is that, since your users are going to be using different kind of internet connections, and they might have a bunch of plugins on there, their computer might be slow, there might be a bunch of different issues that might actually be causing this data to be like fluctuating a little bit, right? So which is why they have two different sets of data, field data and lab data. Put together, your score is going to be scored on a scale of 0 to 100. That is how you are actually going to get it. If you scroll down, you will see two more things here, which is opportunities and diagnostics, right? So let me tell you guys right away, don't get into optimizing so much that you'll actually harm your user experience, right? This is just an objective way Google is trying to have or try to assess a very subjective experience. When I ask people here, right here, that, hey, how was your experience of booking your IRCTC Tatkal ticket or any ticket for that matter? Most people said it was like really bad is an understatement. Some of them actually canceled their travel plans and all of those things. But some of them actually had a pretty good experience, right? So user experience is a very subjective thing. It's very difficult to tell that, hey, some people might have a good experience, some people might have a bad experience, right? So how can you objectively identify how good or bad an experience is? That is what Google is trying to do here, right? If you scroll down here also, the field data here, you'll notice that 72% of the people actually had a pretty good experience, right? So in this case, 98% of the people actually had a pretty good experience, and close to 28% of the people had like moderate or like pretty bad experience. But there's nothing you can do about it. So which is why it is very important for you to understand that, hey, you can't get like 100 on 100 everywhere. So it's absolutely okay. At the end of the day, as long as your website is accessible and provides a good user experience to your users, that's more than enough, right? So another way of trying to understand field data and lab data is that, you guys might have seen, a car ad or a bike ad or anything like that. So they have like the mileage that they claim that the car or bike provides, and the actual mileage it provides is like very different, right? So the mileage that they claim is obviously the mileage that was given by the bike or the car in absolute ideal conditions, and the mileage that you actually get thanks to the roads and many other things, your driving style and all of those kind of things, it actually affects your mileage. So there is going to be a difference, right? So field data is your actual mileage, your lab data is your mileage under like, very ideal conditions. That's the difference between all of these things. This is how your report looks like. So what we'll do, so there are two reports actually. One is for mobile. You'll have like similar things for mobile, and the other one is for desktop as well. So you'll have two different reports, one for mobile and one for desktop. Now let's try to understand what are all of these metrics and how do you actually improve them, right? So let's go back. Just give me 1 minute, guys. Just stop the video. All right, I'm back. Great. So like I said, you get scored on 100 and get different scores for mobile and desktop. There are two different sets of data, field data and lab data. Field data is actual data gathered from Chrome users. Lab data is measured under fixed, almost perfect conditions, right? So now the metrics that make up the score are called web vitals and are divided into core and non-core web vitals. Apart from the fact that, the idea here, the objective here is to provide your users a great experience, a fast loading website. There is another very important factor, which is that recently in July, August, Google rolled out an algorithm, which was called the page experience algorithm, which actually said that, hey, you know what, we are going to incentivize websites that are actually loading faster, and which means that it became a ranking signal, right? So which is why, the whole user signals is why I keep talking about, right? So now these, not all the metrics are ranking signals. All the metrics that you saw are now further divided into core web vitals and non-core web vitals. The core web vitals are largest contentful pane, LCP, first input delay, FID, cumulative layout shift, CLS. Don't worry about it. Now, most importantly, all of these things I will not be asking in the assignment at all. The reason why I'm giving you all of this information, it is critical for you guys to know what all of these metrics are. Say, for example, you're going to an interview and somebody asks you this, or your client asks you this, or in general, it's very important for you guys to know what these metrics are, which is why I said, please pay attention. Please be completely focused for this particular session. It's going to be very, very important, right? Your core web vitals are LCP, FID, and CLS. Then you have something called as the non-core web vitals, which actually do not add to the ranking factor, but still they matter in terms of page experience, which is your first contentful pane, FCP, time to interactive, TTI, total blocking time, TBT, and speed index, right? So these are all the metrics that are there. So totally 7 metrics. So 3 of them are core web vitals, 4 of them are non-core web vitals, right? Now, like I mentioned before, what you need to understand is that these metrics are proxies for user experience and create a good understanding of how your users interact with your website, right? We keep talking about user signals, and I've been saying that, hey, you know what? SEO needs to be called UXO, which is user experience optimization. And in this session, it is more important than any other session in this particular program, right? It's very, very important because what you're trying to do is you're actually objectively trying to make the user experience better, right? So the core web vitals try to do exactly that. Now, the core web vitals, which is basically your LTP, FID, and cumulative layout shift, what are they trying to objectively measure? They are trying to measure loading, your loading speed, your interactivity, how well can you interact with the website, and visual stability of your page. Now, let's go one by one. Each of these metrics, again, like I said, these won't be asked in part of your assignment. I won't give you like a quiz or a test or anything for that matter. This is purely for your understanding. And once you understand this, you'll probably realize that it was pretty smart of Google to do something like this, because what they've done is, to a large extent, successfully kind of like made it easier for you to measure user experience. So that is what they're trying to do. And so let's try to understand each of these things first, right? So the first thing, which is the core web vital, largest contentful pane, LCP. Now, what does it do? It measures your loading performance. How fast does your website or your page actually load? Now, LCP measures the time in seconds from when the page starts loading to when the largest text block or image element is rendered or shown on the screen to the user. Okay, so what is the whichever is the largest block of text or image? In your case, since you guys are, most of you are using WordPress with the After theme and all of this, you will have something called as a featured image. So you, ideally speaking, in most cases, your featured image is going to be the largest image element of your page. So what they're trying to do, if I try to figure out how long it takes for the largest element of the page to load, then I can probably assess how fast the page loads. Does that make sense? Just type in MS in the chat box if that makes sense, right? If I'm trying to figure out the largest element of the page and how long it takes to load the largest element of the page, I probably have a good chance of assessing the loading performance of that particular website, right? So now there are thresholds for LCP scores. Now these are the different thresholds for LCP scores. 2.5 seconds or less is considered to be good. Needs improvement is 2.5 and 4 seconds, and poor is more than 4 seconds, right? So these are all the thresholds that are there, which you saw in the report as well, right? So if it's green, it means good. If it's orange, it means needs improvement. If it's red, it means it's poor, right? This is for all the metrics that has been shown here. Are we clear on LCP? Just type in LCP in the chat box if LCP is clear, and I'll move on to the next metric, which is basically first input delay. Now, what does first input delay actually measure? It measures interactivity, right? It measures interactivity. FID measures the time in milliseconds from when a user first interacts with your site. That is when they click a link, tap a button, or press a key, to when the browser is able to respond to that interaction, right? So how many times has it happened to you guys? Just let me know in the chat box that when you open a website, either on a desktop or on a mobile phone, and you're trying to click on a link or trying to scroll or something, and the link is not clicking at all, and after a while, it starts opening up in like different tabs. How many times has this happened, right? So that is what this FID is trying to measure. It's trying to measure interactivity by basically when a user first interacts with the site, either clicking it, scrolling it, tapping a button or whatever, and when the browser is able to respond to that interaction. If I'm clicking it, if it opens immediately, then it means that your first input delay is very good. So your interactivity wise is absolutely great. So what you will notice in your Google PageSpeed Insights report is that FID is only available in field data, right? Now, the reason behind this is because since it needs users to calculate the actual amount of delay real users experience when trying to interact with your page, right? You'll not find this in lab data. You'll only find this in field data. So FID basically measures interactivity, and here are different thresholds. Like most metrics, all metrics have different thresholds. So if for this, a good is 100 milliseconds or less, needs improvements is 100 milliseconds to 300 milliseconds, poor is more than 300 milliseconds, right? So you got loading performance, which is LCP, FID is interactivity. Does that make sense? Just type in FID in the chat box if that makes sense, and we'll move on to the next metric, which is basically cumulative layout shift, or CLS, which basically measures visual stability of your page. It measures the cumulative score of all unexpected layout shifts within the viewport, or basically a screen, that occur during a page's entire life cycle, right? But unlike other metrics, CLS is not measured in seconds, but an easy to remember way is that lower is better. A very easy way to remember or understand what CLS is. So you might have opened up a website, either on a desktop or on a mobile phone, and you're about to go click something, and suddenly the whole menu or whatever you're trying to click just goes below and a banner pops up. How many times has it happened to you guys? Has it ever happened to you? You're trying to go and click something, but all of a sudden it just like it drops down or something else comes up. There is a banner coming up and all of those kind of things, right? So that is visual instability, right? So what cumulative layout shift is trying to say is that the more stable the entire page is visually, the better it is for the users, right? So don't try to like do some crazy things. And if it is loaded, make sure it is like stable, right? So don't put like random pop-ups, which just basically moves the page below and things like that, right? So here are different thresholds for CLS scores. Again, remember, this is not time. This is a score calculated. 0.1 or less is good, needs improvement. 0.1 to 0.25, poor is more than 0.25. These are all the core web vitals. So basically loading is LCP, FID is interactivity, cumulative layout shift is visual stability. Now let's move on to the non-core web vitals. The first one is your first contentful page. The FCP metric measures the time from when the page starts loading to when any part of the page content like text or images is rendered on the screen. Now, how many times has it happened to you people? You go to your browser, you type in a website, and you don't know whether the website is loading or not because nothing is appearing on the screen. Has it ever happened to you guys? Just type in me in the chat box if it has ever happened to you. You're trying to like actually access a website, but you don't know whether it's loading or not, right? It's definitely quite irritating, right? When you don't know whether the website is loading or not, you don't know whether the problem is from your end or from their end and all of those kind of things. Again, not a great experience at all. So FCP actually measures this. So measures the time from when the page starts loading to when any part of the page content, it could be text, it could be images, whatever it is, when is it actually loaded on the screen, right? So that is exactly what FCP is trying to do. Now, FCP is to measure exactly that, and therefore having a fast FCP reassures users that something is happening and not abandon your site. So a lot of times you might have done it yourself. You load a website and suddenly you're like, I don't know whether it's loading or not. So you just like go back to Google or wherever you are like coming from. Now here are different thresholds for FCP scores. 1 second or less is good. 1 second to 3 seconds, it needs improvement. More than 3 seconds is poor. That's FCP. If everybody is clear with FCP, just type in FCP in the chat box and we'll move on to the next metric, which is time to interactive, TTI. Now, TTI measures how long it takes a page to become fully interactive, right? For it to be fully interactive, it needs to display useful content, which is basically measured by FCP, have most visible page elements rendered, and respond to user interactions within 50 milliseconds, right? So basically, time to interactive, what it says is that When are you able to see the scroll bar? When are you able to see the menu bar? When are you able to see all of these things which actually allows you to interact? So basically, how long does it take for the page to be ready for interaction, not for the interaction itself? Unlike FID, FID basically measures when you actually interact with it, how long does it take to respond? Time to interactive measures how long does it take to be able to be interactive in the first place. That is what TTI is. Now, unlike FID, TTI measures how long it takes your page to be ready for interaction and does not need users to calculate, which is why you find TTI in lab data and not in field data. Like all metrics, here are different thresholds for TTI scores. Good is less than 3.8 seconds, needs improvement is 3.9 to 7.3 seconds, and poor is more than 7.3 seconds. Everybody clear with TTI? Just type in TTI in the chat box if everybody is clear about TTI. Basically, how long does it take for your page to be ready for interaction in the first place? Now, total blocking time, TBT. Now, this measures the total time in milliseconds between FCP, which is first contentful paint, and time to interactive. Now, the reason why it is doing is TBT measures the total amount of time that the page is blocked from responding to user input, such as mouse clicks, screen taps, or keyboard presses. TBT highly correlates with first input delay. Now, here are different thresholds for TBT scores. Again, they are all, as you can note, observe or notice, all of these metrics are very closely related to each other, right? They feed into each other, and they kind of like overall what they're trying to do is they're trying to understand user experience in the first place. So TBT, good is less than 300 milliseconds, needs improvement is 300 to 600 milliseconds, and poor is more than 600 milliseconds. So one last metric is speed index or SI. It measures how quickly content is visually displayed during page load. To do this, Lighthouse, which is basically the technology behind all of this thing, first captures a video of the page loading in the browser and calculated using frame by frame analysis of your page's loading behavior, counting the visual progression between frames captured every 100 milliseconds. To help you understand more about speed index, let me just show it to you guys. But if you scroll down here, this is what speed index is all about. Can you guys see this? Let me like zoom in a little bit more. Right? So this frame by frame, how much of your content is being populated to the user is being shown here. So that is what speed index is all about. And as you can see here, you can see the speed index here. You see FCP here. You see largest contentful pane here, time to interactive, total blocking time, cumulative layout shift, and all the rest of the things also here. First input delay is part of field data and not of lab data, as we have already discussed, right? So these are all the metrics that you're seeing here and what it actually means and what it actually is trying to control and improve, right? Are we all clear on this? Slightly heavy, but I hope everyone is clear on this. I hope I've like simplified it to a large extent so that you understand what is the reasoning behind it. Do you guys now feel that Google has done a pretty good job in trying to understand something so subjective as user experience? Let me know in the chat box, right? They've done a pretty good job, pretty decent job in terms of understanding user experience and then trying to like objectively identify what are the elements to measure and therefore give it to us webmasters saying that, hey, you know what, these are the things that you need to measure. So what you can't measure, you can't improve. So here are things that you can measure and then go out there and improve it as much as possible. Now, for you to understand all of these things in a very easy manner, take a look at this graph, right? So beautifully done. So this is from this guy called Adi Osmani, who actually worked on the Page Speed Insights project in Google. And you know, what he did was, I think this is like the most nicest way you can visually represent all of these metrics. So if they're trying to load a page like this, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Yeah. So if you can see it here, so this is your first contentful pane. So what is happening here is that something is loading, right? You know that this page is loading. You've entered something here, and then first contentful pane is here, right? Something is loading on the page. You are now assured that, hey, you know what? Something is happening. As you can see it, is it happening? Yes, it's happening. Then largest contentful pane, basically this text is basically the largest contentful pane. It has been loaded already. First input delay, basically, is it responding to any interaction that you're doing? It could be scrolling, it could be tapping on that button and all of those things. Speed index is like how visually is it getting populated, and time to interactive, right? When is it ready for any kind of interaction, and cumulative layout shift. As you can see here, the page seemed to be only this much, but suddenly there was like a banner like this, and then it pushed the entire page below, right? That is like a cumulative layout shift. Very easy way to understand all of this metric. Is it happening? Is it useful? Is it usable? Right? So very simple way to understand all of these things. I think this is a great visual representation of all of these metrics. I know it sounds a little too heavy. I know it sounds a little too alien. Don't worry about it. Okay. I'm not going to ask you to do anything related to all of these metrics as part of your assignment, but it is very, very important for you guys to understand this, right? So the reason why you need to understand this is because if you're going out there and trying to optimize for all of these things, you need to know what you're doing, and most importantly, why are you doing that in the first place, right? Which is why I made sure that you guys need to know how to go about doing it, right? Are we all clear on all of these things? Just let me know in the chat box real quick if we are clear about all of these metrics. Just type in CC in the chat box. This is why I told you guys, complete focus for the next 1 hour. Very, very important that you completely focus on all of these things here, right? So now, how do you actually improve all of these metrics, right? So how to make your website load faster? What are the things that you need to be doing to go out there and make your website load faster and improve all of these metrics in the first place, right? The first thing that you need to be doing is you need to choose a good hosting company. And this is exactly the reason why I have given WPX hosting as part of HIIT SEO. WPX hosting is, according to me, one of the best hosting companies, especially for WordPress. They have optimized their entire server infrastructure for WordPress so that your website loads really, really fast, which is why choosing a good hosting company is very, very crucial. Okay. The next thing that you need to do is use something called as content distribution network, right? Content distribution network, actually, yeah, I'll use this slide instead. So use something called as content distribution network, or CDN. Now, what is a CDN? Now, how many people remember how the whole interaction between your browser and your server works like? Right? What is happening every time you want to load your website or access any website for that matter? You type in your domain name in the browser, and what is happening is browser is sending a request to your server, and your server is processing all of this file and sending it back to your browser, right? Everybody remembers that? Give me a yes or no in the chat box if you guys remember that. Fantastic. Now, think about this situation, right? Imagine my server, there are two servers, okay? Think about this situation. Now, one server is sitting somewhere in the United States and one server is sitting here in Bangalore itself. Now, if I were to load or host my website in the server located in the United States compared to a server located in Bangalore, every time I actually have to go out there and access this website, my browser will send a request all the way to United States and then get all of those files back to my browser, right? So compare that to Bangalore. Do you think the server in Bangalore will be much faster compared to the server in the United States? Just let me know in the chat box. B for Bangalore, U for US. Right? Obviously, it makes sense because it's much closer, and the amount of distance or the time that it takes to like actually transfer all of this information is much, much faster, right? Now, obviously, it's very difficult for you to know where all your users are coming from. So what these hosting companies did, they did something really, really smart. They said that, hey, you know what? Let's do one thing. Let's take all of this static content on your website, like your text content, your images, and all of those things, and make copies of it and spread it across different servers all across the world. So that depending on where the user is accessing the website, we will send them to the nearest server to serve them the static part of the content so that it improves all of your FCP, LCP, and all of those kind of things. And rest of the files that are important to function the actual website parallelly can be actually served from the actual server. Now, that is what a content distribution network is. If that makes sense, just type in CDN in the chat box if that makes sense. right? So what they do is they make copies of your website and they distribute it across different servers across the world. So depending on where your user, somebody is accessing it from, say, Singapore. So they won't actually send the request to a server in Bangalore or the United States. They will probably send the request to somewhere, a data center in Singapore itself. Therefore, it makes it so much more faster, right? Now, the best part about WPX is they have an inbuilt CDN. You can, if you have to go for another hosting company, you have to go out there and buy another CDN for yourself. So WPX has an inbuilt CDN, which is why it makes your website load even more faster. Okay, you can actually go and test it out for different hosting companies if you want, and you'll see a significant difference in the page load times with WPX compared to any other hosting companies out there, right? So that is what a CDN is. So since CDN is enabled, so there is one more thing that you need to be adding in, and that's called Cloudflare. How many people have come across the term Cloudflare? Some people might have actually seen this term Cloudflare or the brand Cloudflare, plenty of times, right? So what Cloudflare does, not only does it have a CDN, but it has probably the fastest DNS. How many people remember what DNS is? Where did you hear the term DNS for the first time? Can anyone help me remind it? Domain name system, name servers and domain names. Absolutely correct, right? You remember your domain name. It's like the phone book of the internet, right? Your domain name is connected to your server, which has an IP address, and your name servers basically connect the IP address with your domain name. That is what is happening. This is what DNS is, right? So what you're doing, what Cloudflare does, so every time you type in a domain name, so that matching of IP address and domain name needs to happen, which obviously takes some time, right? So it may be like in milliseconds, but that is also a little too much for all of these systems. So what Cloudflare does, it makes this mapping of the domain name and the IP address really, really, really fast. So therefore, it makes your website load super fast. So let's see how you can actually enable Cloudflare on your website and make it load even more faster. It's a very simple method. And you know what the best part is? Cloudflare is absolutely free to use. So let's see how to use Cloudflare to go out there and implement a faster DNS, plus they have their own inbuilt CDN as well. Okay, are we all on the same page? Just type in SP in the chat box if you're all on the same page up until this point. Okay, fantastic. So this is how Cloudflare looks like. So in your case, you have to go out there and create a new account for you guys, right? So you have to go out there and create a new account. In my case, I already have an account, so I'm going to go ahead and like log in and show you guys how to do it. And after you sign up for a new account, the steps are the same. So it's absolutely okay, right? You will be like logged into Cloudflare like this. And this is the page you'll get as soon as you sign up for Cloudflare. What you're doing here is you're trying to not only, it also provides a lot of protection for your website as well. So what you need to do here is put in your site. So let me put in my website here, click on add site. Right, they have a bunch of plans here, pro, business, enterprise, blah, blah, blah. Just go with the free plan. It's more than enough, especially for a website of your stature right now. Just choose the free plan, and it's more than enough, to be very honest, even otherwise. So it'll go ahead and scan for existing DNS records. Right, it'll show all of these things. As long as it looks like this, we are good to go. Now what you do is continue. Right? So what you need to do right now is, everybody remembers how to go out there to your GoDaddy account and change your name servers? Everybody remembers it? Give me a quick yes or no in the chat box. I want everybody to type in yes or no in the chat box. Everybody remembers, right? All you need to do is go into your GoDaddy account and change your name servers again, right? As you can see here, so right now it has the WPX hosting name servers. All you need to do is go out there and add your Cloudflare's name servers, right? Once you do that, done, check name servers, and that's it. That's how you set up Cloudflare for your website. It provides security. Most importantly, it has the fastest DNS, and also it also has an inbuilt CDN also. Double CDN you'll be getting apart from the WPX CDN that you have. So all of these things are very, very important. So make sure you install Cloudflare or add Cloudflare to your website. It does amazing things to your website. Okay, got it? Just give me a got it in the chat box if you got it. All right. So apart from having a fast DNS, you also need to have a fast theme, right? Which is also one of the reasons why I gave you guys the Astra Pro theme, because the way your theme is designed and coded and executed is also very, very important. Okay, so the smaller the file is, the faster your website is going to load. Everybody would agree that the larger a file is, it becomes so much more difficult for it to access on your phone or in your computer. Would you guys agree with that? Just type in A in the chat box if you guys agree with that, right? So it is very difficult for you to access large images or videos and all of those things, both on your mobile phone and your desktop. So similarly, the smaller the file is, especially for your theme, and the more optimized the theme is, it becomes faster for it to load as well. So which is also one of the reasons why I've given you guys the Astra Pro theme. And with that also, you can go ahead and experiment. You'll see a significant difference in this on the impact Astra Pro has on your speed as well, right? The other thing is using the right plugins, both in terms of for making your website load faster, plus you shouldn't be using too many plugins as well. So which is why I always try to maintain that don't put too many plugins on your website. If you add too many plugins, it's going to make it much, much, much more difficult for it to go out there and load it. Speaking of plugins, you will be getting access to your other bonus, which is WP Rocket. Easily one of the best WordPress speed optimization plugins out there, right? So I actually used to give another plugin for the other batches, but that was too complicated. WP Rocket is so much more easier, so much more faster for you guys to go out there and actually install and implement on your website. So what I'll do right now is first quickly get into my website and show you guys how to install WP Rocket. Just give me a minute, guys. Let me first deactivate and delete it, and then do the whole process again. All right, everybody remembers how to install plugins? Give me a quick yes or no in the chat box if you guys remember how to install plugins on your WordPress website. How comfortable are you guys with WordPress right now? On a scale of 0 to 10, give me a quick rating of your comfort level. Oh, 7, 10, 9, 4, 8, 8, 7. Great, guys. Absolutely great. Fantastic. Like I always keep telling, WordPress in itself is a great skill to learn. Okay. Great entry point into digital marketing, great entry point into like understanding how websites work and all of those things. So I'm very happy to see it. At least most of you guys are in the north of 7, at least 5. So very, very happy for that. I'm so happy. I'm so glad that you guys are at least comfortable with WordPress, right? Coming back to setting up WordPress WP Rocket, right? Now click on Add New, like always, and click on Upload Plugin, and you need to choose the file. I'll be giving you this zip file, like always. All you need to do is install it. You don't even have to authenticate anything. This is again like a fully loaded plugin. You don't have to like track it or whatever. This is a completely legal plugin as well. And once it's done, click on Activate Plugin. And boom, it's done. That's basically it. So now to access all of the features that WP Rocket has, you need to go under settings and click on WP Rocket, right? So click on no thanks. And what you'll notice here, and the reason why I prefer WP Rocket these days, is it makes your life so much more easier. And how does it do it? It does it by applying 80% of the web performance best practices automatically, right? It does it by actually applying 80% of the web performance best practices automatically. Now, what are these? Some of the main things that it applies automatically. Caching, right? Let's try to understand what caching is. And there are two types of caching: server caching and browser caching. Now, again, now everybody knows every time you have to go visit a website, you type in a domain name, and now that your browser sends a request to your server. Now, what the server does is actually processes the request, converts all of your file, all of the website files into an HTML file, and then sends it back into your browser so that your website is actually displayed, right? That's what actually happens. Okay. Now, what caching does is that instead of making this entire process, like every time you go and do this entire process, what it does is it keeps that HTML file ready in a temporary memory location on your server, so that whenever a request is sent to your server, that file is immediately sent to your browser, therefore making your website load faster. Does that make sense? Just type in caching. Caching is typed CACHING, by the way, in the chat box. I'll also type it in the chat box. Okay, this is what caching is all about, right? I'll explain again. Every time you type in any website or any domain name into your browser, it sends a request to the server. Now the server actually processes this request and converts all of the files of your website into an HTML file and sends it back to your browser so that it can be displayed on your browser, right? So when you enable server caching, what it does is that it keeps that HTML file ready, so that that whole processing is not necessary every time somebody has to like visit that website, and then sends it to your browser and immediately serves the particular HTML file, therefore making your website load faster. Now, this is server caching. So what it automatically enables is something called as browser caching also. Now, what is browser caching? Exactly like server caching, this HTML file is served on your is saved on your local computer, or wherever you are actually accessing it from. That HTML file is actually saved on a local computer, so that next time you come back and visit your website, that all the HTML file is served from a local computer, making it even more faster, because it doesn't have to go all the way to the server and process this entire thing and send it back, because the HTML file is already ready and on your system itself, so that it can be like served almost immediately. Does that make sense? Now, does that make sense? Just type in MS in the chat box if that makes sense, right? You have server caching and you have browser caching as well, right? I want everyone to like let me know if whatever I'm saying makes sense. Mind is crashing. Again, don't worry, guys. You guys can like go through the entire recording and all of those things. Put in your questions in the Q&A box. I'll answer all of your questions. All of these things are very important aspects, which is why it is important for you guys to know what all of these things are. And believe me when I say this, when I actually heard all of these terms the first time, even I was like confused, right? So if you're feeling confused, if you're feeling overwhelmed, let me tell you, it's absolutely normal to feel that way. And if you're not feeling that way, then I should be worried, right? What is the best practice for website server or browser caching? Both. So both server caching and browser caching should be enabled, which is what WP Rocket actually does it for you already. Having said that, it also provides a bunch of other features also. Now, what are these other features that you need to enable to make your website even more faster and get that 100 on 100 score? Not necessarily 100 on 100 score, basically make your website load faster, right? So you have a bunch of options here. Let's go one by one and see what are the different options that you need to be enabling for it to actually make your website faster, right? You have another option called as cache here. So you have mobile cache. So what you need to do is enable caching for mobile devices. Same thing for mobile devices. That's it. So just enable this and leave everything as it is. Now, then you have something called as file optimization, right? So you have a bunch of files on your system. So what you need to do, so all of these files, when you click on minify CSS file actually figures out CSS file is actually design related. So again, don't worry too much about it. If you don't understand all of these things, this is just purely for your information. If you want to completely discard it, also go ahead and discard it, but make sure you enable all of these things. That's it. Okay. I'm going to give you this information any which way. It's up to you whether you want to absorb it or discard it, right? CSS file is basically how your basically decides, how your website looks like, right? So all of these things are like text files, and you might have noticed these text files have a lot of white spaces. How many people have seen it? Whenever you're downloading something or anything, they have a lot of white spaces in between, right? Have you seen it? So whenever you type something, there are like a lot of like white spaces, right? So what Minify CSS file does is it removes all the white spaces and everything and makes it smaller so that it becomes much more faster to load also, right? Don't enable combine CSS files and click on optimize CSS delivery. Same thing with JavaScript files also. Enable this, activate Minify JavaScript. Don't enable combine JavaScript. Enable load JavaScript deferred. Delay JavaScript execution. Click on save changes. Every time you make any changes, make sure you click on save changes. It's probably the worst thing that you can do. JavaScript is again how your website functions. JavaScript allows your website to function properly, the interaction and all of those things. That's what JavaScript, it's a coding language basically, right? Great. Now you have media, you have lazy load. So what lazy load does is, say for example, this is the website, okay? Now this is the page we're talking about. Now this image here, right? So if I am somewhere here, I don't necessarily want that particular image to be loading right now. Only when I start scrolling, right? If it's loads when I have come to that point, it's more than enough. As long as I'm scrolling and coming down, and when I scroll to that point, if it loads, it's more than enough. So that is what lazy loading is all about. So enable for images and click on add missing image dimensions also. This will allow you to like, improve your CLS, and you can enable this. If you don't want to enable this also, it's fine. WebP is basically like PNG or JPEG formats for your images. Click on save changes, right? You have preload for caching. Keep it as it is. Activate preloading, enable link preloading. All of this is enabled. So just make sure this is enabled here. So by the way, if you guys want to go even more deeper, I'll send you the link for this particular blog post where I have actually explained what each of these options does in WP Rocket. So consider this as an extra reading material for you guys if you are interested in reading and learning more about it, right? Advanced rules, do yourself a favor, don't touch it, okay? So database, again, don't touch it. You don't necessarily need it. If you want, just enable spam comments and that's about it, right? Save changes and optimize, because if you do something, if something breaks, if you don't have a backup, you're gone, right? Everything else is like remains the same. You don't have to change anything apart from this. Like I said, if you want to know what each of this setting does, just read this particular blog post. I've gone deep into helping you understanding all of these things. Once you do this, you will notice how fast your website actually starts loading. How many people are excited to go out and try all of these things and actually get those amazing Google Page Speed Insights scores and make your website load blazing fast. Awesome. Right? It's not that difficult. Would you guys agree with that? I know it's overwhelming, but it's not that difficult. It might be overwhelming. It might seem like a little complicated, the face of it, but it's not that difficult. Yeah, just have to like click a bunch of different things. That's about it, right? Again, like I said, all of this information I'm providing is because I want you guys to be confident SEO professionals, right? I want you to be very, very confident. Somebody asks you that, hey, why is my website not loading fast? And you should be able to say that, okay, these are the things that you need to fix. These are the things that you need to enable. And this is why you need to be enabling. And this is why you shouldn't be enabling it, right? It could be a job interview. It could be a client. It could be a friend. It could be a neighbor, whoever it is, right? You need to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Very importantly, why you're doing it is also very, very important, which is why I'm showing you guys all of these things. A lot of times I've thought about not including all of these things. in the interest of not overwhelming you. But I was like, you know what? It's okay if they get overwhelmed also, but this much information is needed. It is required for you to take the right decisions when it comes to like SEO, right? Yes, Mudiraj, absolutely. You need to sleep over it and it'll make a lot more sense in the morning, especially if you go through the recording all over again, right? So that's very, very important. All right, so that's about WordPress speed optimization, and we are not even done with today's session. Okay, can we move on to the next subtopic of today's session? Let me know in the chat box if you're all clear and are all on the same page. Let me do a quick recap. How about that? I don't know what's happening to me not today. Okay, let me do a quick recap. So we spoke about WordPress speed optimization, making a site faster improves the user experience while also increasing the crawl rate. You need to first benchmark it. And how do you do it? You go to Google PageSpeed Insights to actually benchmark it. Now, in Google PageSpeed Insights, you notice that you get scored on 100 and different scores for mobile and desktop. There are two different sets of data, field data and lab data. Field data is actual data gathered from Chrome users. Lab data is measured under fixed, almost perfect conditions, right? Now, the metrics that make up the score, basically 0 to 100, are called Web Vitals and are divided into core and non-core Web Vitals. Core Web Vitals are LCP, largest contentful paint, first input delay, FID, cumulative layout shift, CLS, and the non-core Web Vitals are first contentful paint, FCP, time to interactive, TTI, total blocking time, TBT, and speed index, right? So, like I said, what these metrics do is they act as proxies for user experience and help you understand better as to how people are perceiving your website as, right? Now, the core Web Vitals measure loading, interactivity, and visual stability of your page. Now, largest contentful paint, it basically measures your loading performance. Your first input delay measures interactivity. Your cumulative layout shift measures visual stability. Your first contentful paint basically measures how long does it take to show or load anything that is important for people to know that something is happening on the web page. Time to interactive, how soon or how long will it take for your website to be ready for interaction. Blocking time is basically the time between FCP and TTI, and speed index is frame by frame analysis of how visually populated a particular page is going to get. Just check out this particular visual representation. It'll help you understand all of these metrics properly, right? Now, how do you go about making your website load super fast? Obviously, you need a good hosting company. Thanks to WPX Hosting, you guys have a very good hosting company. CDN is your content distribution network, wherein copies of your static content, like your images, text, and all of those things, copies of your static content are spread across the world in different server locations so that it becomes easier and faster for people to access it and get served, right? And then we saw and learned how to enable Cloudflare for your website. What Cloudflare does is, most importantly, it gives a very fast DNS, therefore making the website load faster. Also, it provides security and an extra layer of CDN as well. You also need to use a fast theme. AstroPro does that, and use the right plugins. And we also saw how to go about that, setting up WP Rocket. Now, I'm not even trying to get ahead of myself here. I can guarantee you this. Just by finishing 5 sessions of HIT SEO, especially this session, you guys can go out there and check and ask all of these questions to so-called SEO professionals out there. They'll have no idea what you're talking about. I can guarantee you that. Just by knowing all of this information and implementing all of these things, you are 99% ahead of most, not even 99%, 99.9999% ahead of most SEO professionals out there, right? So, which is why I want to make sure that when you walk away from this particular program, you are extremely confident. You are well equipped with all the information, with all the experience, so that anything that people throw at you, you know how to tackle it, right? So, yeah, Radhika says she was a SEO professional once and now still feel like a beginner, right? Like I said, most SEO guys actually don't know about all of these things at all. They only talk about link building. They only talk about keyword ranking, only this, right? You won't actually get people talking about, we haven't even got to the point where we start building links, right? We haven't even gotten to that point, and we have so much to do, right? We have so much to do in terms of your keyword research, your on-page SEO, your technical SEO, and all of these things. Only and only if and when all of these things are in place is building links going to make sense for you guys. If it is not in place, no matter what kind of links you build, which you'll be learning in the next 2 sessions, it is not going to make sense at all. It is not going to have any kind of impact for your website, right? So just think about it. So which is why, although this might feel a little overwhelming, you guys are ahead of 99.9999% of most SEO professionals in this country, if not the world. Okay, great. Moving on. Can we proceed? Having said that, can we proceed? Just give me a quick yes or no in the chat box. We will be talking about what is called as structured data. Now, what is structured data? This is not to do with WordPress speed optimization. This is a completely different topic under technical SEO. We'll be learning about structured data. Now, what is structured data? Also called as schema markup. A lot of people might have come across this. Schema markup is a type of code that makes it easier for search engines to crawl, organize, and display your content. Everybody remembers how search engines work? Can anybody quickly tell me in the chat box how search engines actually work? Everybody remembers it? Real quick in the chat box. Yeah, crawling, indexing, and ranking. CIR. Okay, let's just call it CIR. Never thought about that acronym, right? Crawling, indexing, and ranking. Now, in the indexing process, we learned that what Google is trying to do is basically understand what that content is about so that it can go out there and organize it properly. Now, in the previous session, you made sure that it becomes super easy for Google to actually crawl your website better so that it can go ahead and index and rank better. In structured data, what you're trying to do is helping Google understand what that content is all about by giving it clues in the language it understands so that it can organize it better and also display it better on the search engine result pages. That is what you're trying to do with structured data. Okay, it's a standardized format for providing information about a page and classifying the page content. What part of the page content, what is it, and all of those things. Before I proceed into helping you understand what exactly it is, how many people have seen results like this in the search engines, right? If you look for certain recipes, you'll get things like this, right? Wherein you have the ratings, you have how many hours it takes, how many calories it is, and like FAQs also, there'll be some question and answers below a website. If you're looking for a product, what are the ratings, how many words, how much it costs, and all of those things. This is what structured data is all about. Very simply put, right? How do you make all of this information appear in the search engine result pages, right? How do you make it appear? You make it appear by basically telling Google all of this information and telling them where it is on your page. If you tell them where it is on the page, it'll allow Google to display all of this information on the results, right? Now, I'm sure every single one of you would agree that just by providing, by doing this, having a display like this in the results, do you think that your website will actually stand out from all of the rest of the results? Right? It actually helps you stand out from the rest of the results, right? So that's exactly what we are trying to do with structured data, right? By structured data, you can get what is called as rich results or rich snippets, right? This is what rich results or rich snippets is all about, right? So this will increase your CTR and therefore click-through rate. CTR is click-through rate, and therefore indirectly impact your rankings, apart from making it easier for Google to understand what your content is about, right? This is what structured data is. How do we actually make this happen? Let's go ahead and try to understand this by logging into my, right? So very simple. Again, Rank Math Pro. This feature is only available in the Pro version, by the way. It is not available in the other versions. So it makes it very easy for you to add different kind of structured data. So there are different kinds of structured data. You have recipe structured data, product structured data, FAQ structured data, and a bunch of different things, right? So what we are learning in this session will be understanding how to add FAQ structured data. You guys saw how FAQ structured data looks like, right? So this is how it looks like. right? This is how it looks like once you add FAQ structured data. So obviously you are trying to get more real estate in the results so that you go out there and get better clicks also. There is an other added advantage for this, which you'll understand in the next segment of this session, but we'll get there when we get there. But first, let's try to understand how to actually add structured data. So say for example, you have to add FAQ structured data. All you need to do, click on this and scroll down. You'll see this section here called rank math, right? And then you put in FAQ, right? So FAQ by rank math, click on that and boom, you'll get this section here. Did you guys see that? As soon as I clicked on FAQ by rank math, you'll get this. So you can put in your questions here. What is a dishwasher? And then you put in your answers here, blah, 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 and all of those things. And you can keep on adding FAQs like this. So once you do that, you can go to this tool called as the Rich Results Test tool, right? So this is again a free tool. I'll be giving you the link for this also, right? You put in the URL just to test how whether or not first Google is able to understand the structured data and how will it actually show it in the search engine results. Okay, so once you do this, click on test URL. It's going to take a minute or two to actually go out there and fetch the page and run the test and then show you how it actually looks like. So I've taken one of my pages where I've added the FAQ and you'll be able to see how it actually shows up in the search engine result pages while we are doing that, right? Pretty simple and easy to do. All you need to do is click on this plus symbol here and just scroll down and you will be able to, you'll be able to give FAQ by rank math. You can actually go out there and play around this other things also, but I recommend not to do that. Just go ahead with FAQ by rank math right now and just figure out how to add FAQ this thing. So as you can see, page is eligible for rich results. And if you click on preview results, you'll then be able to see how it looks like on the search engine. Can you see it here? Everybody able to see it? Give me a quick yes or no in the chat box, right? So I got this extra real estate and the answer to that is also being displayed on the search results, right? People might not even want to get into the page, but they will click on it and come to it because, obviously they want to the links will come here and a bunch of different things will show up here. So this is how you do it. Pretty simple, right? So all you need to do is click on this plus symbol, FAQ, get rank math, and put in your questions, put in your answers. And as long as you do that, you'll be able to get structured data. This is just one of the structured data. There are different kinds of structured data which you can actually enable from within rank math itself. Rank math Pro, they support almost all structured data, but it can get slightly complicated. And most importantly, that might not be your use case at all. So since this is definitely your use case and it is going to be helpful in our next segment, I thought I'll go ahead and show it to you guys how to go ahead and do it. Are we all clear on this? Just type in CC in the chat box if you are clear about structured data. All right, so that was about structured data. Just one more thing about security, about your website. This is just theory. Everybody has done it. You've gone ahead and installed real simple SSL. So I just want to tell you guys what it is so that you know what it is, right? SSL stands for Secure Sockets Layer, a global standard security technology that enables encrypted communication between a web browser and a web server. For the 100th time, you guys know how every time you put in a domain name in your browser, it's basically sending a request to your server, and then the server is sending back the information to your browser. Now, what happens if SSL has not been enabled is that this communication between your browser and your server can be intercepted, or in other words, hacked, and all the sensitive information. Say, for example, you're running an e-commerce website, and if somebody makes a payment using their credit card information, and that information is being sent from the browser to your server, for everything to happen, somebody can actually intercept that communication and grab all of those things. So which is why enabling SSL is very, very important, or SSL certificates. So again, as part of WPX hosting, they provide free SSL certificates, which is what enables you to move from HTTP to to HTTPS. Now, again, it has some kind of or some level of correlation with better SEO ranking. It's pretty much free, and everybody is like, it's good practice to go out there and actually enable SSL on your website and move from HTTP to HTTPS. That's what SSL is. That's why we made you guys do it also in the first place. And the other reason we enabled it in the first session itself is if it's not enabled, it'll become very difficult for you guys to actually access the WordPress dashboard in the first place. Great. Now, moving on to the next segment, voice SEO. How many people are excited for this one? Voice SEO. Okay, Anmol is, Khalil is, Indrani is, Insia is very much. The future is here, says Amey. Avinash is excited. Debanjali is excited. Sanjeev is excited. We're getting lazy to even type now. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Okay, let me disappoint all of you guys. Okay. So basically, TLDR version, if I have to like give you a synopsis of voice SEO, it is not as big as people make it to be. And I'll explain what it is and why it is so. Okay. A lot of people said that voice SEO is going to be the future. That is how we are going to interact with search engines and websites and blah, 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 and all of those different kind of things. But it turned out to be not the case, right? So what you're trying to do is voice SEO is the optimization of keywords and keyword phrases for searches using voice assistants and smartphones. Your Alexa, your Google Assistant, your Siri, and all. How many people have all of these things or use all of these things? Say Alexa. How many people have Alexa or use, Siri or Google Assistant and all of those things? And how many people actually use it on a consistent basis? And if you do, what do you use it for? Can you tell me about that? I tell Alexa daily to play music. Okay, great. Music, Raksha again. Searching, what kind of stuff do you search? Bhaskar, Sanjeev. Put alarm, music, news, good stuff. Setting alarms. Alarm. Weather forecast. Yes, yes, yes. Use it when I'm bored, says Shanta, to hear silly jokes. Okay, fantastic. So as you guys can clearly see, you're not doing it for like anything important, right? Would you guys agree that you're not actually using voice SEO for doing anything important, right? That's the most important thing. And what you need to understand about voice SEO is that voice is a user interface, right? For you to understand what it is, let me take you back in time. Anybody remembers using your computers with DOS, MS-DOS? Anybody remembers it? Has anybody used it? Okay, some people have used it. Okay, great. Some people might not have used it. So for people who might have used MS-DOS on your computers, how are you interacting with the computer? You are actually talking in a language only the computer understands, right? You were actually giving commands to it, and then it used to actually talk back in the only language it understands, which is MS-DOS. Right? It's so difficult to actually go out there and access things on your computer, right? Now, then what happened? Apple came along and said that, hey, this is like extremely like, it's not user friendly at all. So what we're going to do is bring about graphical user interface, GUI, right? So they said that forget about all of these commands, and they brought in the mouse, right? They brought in the mouse and said that, hey, you know what? All you need to do is point at something, click on it. That way you're able to interact with the machine so much more easily, right? That actually democratized the use of computers to a large extent. Even today, we are all using like mouse and all of those things, and like, you know, the way we interact with all of those things. Then Apple again came along and said that, hey, you know what? Why use mouse and all of those things when you have your fingers? Just touch all of those things, and like you can just interact with your machines, your phone, your iPads, your computers, and all of those things with just your fingers itself. So touch screen came along. Obviously, everybody would agree that the bandwidth or the amount of information that you can type in using these two thumbs or all of these fingers is limited to a large extent. Even if you are the fastest typer in the world, it is still like limited. Would you guys agree with that? Right? You guys agree with that, right? It's actually pretty limited, right? So what people try to do is try to create an interface, which is basically voice, saying that, hey, you know what, let's provide an interface of voice so that that barrier of bandwidth is actually broken down, and so that you can interface with the machine much faster, so that it becomes easier. What it also do, the other intention was, even if you're illiterate, even if you're not able to use the computers, you can still go ahead and use computers and all of these machines. So that was also one of the things, right? So that is what voice SEO is all about. It just provides you an interface to interact with the search engines. But after that interface is over, everything that happens after that remains the same. Does that make sense now? What I meant by voice is just an interface, a user interface. That's it. Everything that happens after that interface remains the same. All of this RAU, CIR, everything remains the same. It's just that the way you interact with your machine has changed. If you don't believe me, would you guys like to see what Rand Fishkin had to say? How many people know Rand Fishkin? Do you guys know Rand Fishkin? Okay, Vivek knows. Anmol knows. Danny knows. Yeah, he's from Moz. He's the founder of Moz. Okay, great. So for people who might not know, to a large extent, father of digital marketing also. You follow him also. Great, absolutely amazing guy. So about 3 years ago, I interviewed him and I asked him the same question. And listen to what he has to say. And if you don't believe me, I really hope that you guys will believe Rand Fishkin, who has great thoughts about SEO. He founded this company called as Moz, which is very similar to Ahrefs, which was the predecessor of Ahrefs, to be very honest. But they didn't take off as well as Ahrefs did for various reasons. But whatever said and done, he kind of he used to do this thing called Whiteboard Fridays. He used to teach people SEO, and to a large extent, he is definitely, I consider him my mentor. The approaches that I take in terms of SEO and all of those things, I follow him closely among other people also. So let's try to hear what Rand Fishkin has to say about voice SEO. Wrong information. Also speak. Are you guys able to hear the audio of the video? Okay. Speaking of the future of SEO, we cannot obviously miss out on voice search. Now, a lot of people have a big misunderstanding of voice search, right? And what I like to believe voice search is that it's just a change in the UI, because the way we interact with the search engine has changed. So, but voice answers is something very different. So would you like to shed some light on that?
Sanjay, you are the smartest person who has ever asked me, or you have asked me that question in the smartest possible way. High five,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah, I really hate the whole, hey, is voice search changing everything? No. Voice search, to your point, is a UI change, right? If I ask my phone a question via voice, or I type it in on the keyboard, what's the difference? There's no difference. The results look exactly the same on the screen.
Yeah.
The difference is if I ask a query or type in a query and I get back a voice answer, and that is a much, much smaller percent of what's happening. Most of those voice answers are singular pieces of information that would have resulted in 0 clicks anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's what was David Bowie's birthday, right?
Yeah.
What was, who's the Prime Minister of India, right? Those kinds of very simplistic, easy answer queries where Google is going to show you or tell you a result just right off the bat, and no one's getting a click from that.
Yeah.
So I don't think voice answers is cannibalizing very much yet. Whether that's true long term, I don't know. Maybe, maybe the generation that's growing up with Alexa and Google Home and all that kind of stuff, maybe in 15, 20 years, they will be more, they'll want to listen to more stuff. But I honestly don't think so. I think a screen of results is a much better interface for most complex information. Yes. Versus, what's the best TV? Which flat screen TV should I buy? Yeah. Are you kidding me? You want to listen to, 50 paragraphs of exposition about, well, the Zenith TV is blah, 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 blah. No, you want to read, you want to look at it, you want to see the pictures, right? It's I think for most commercial intent, navigational intent, deep informational intent queries, screen is going to be better than audio. And so I don't really worry too much long term. We'll see if there's an additional cannibalization, but I think it's going to be relatively small and in a portion of the queries that are not all that interesting to SEOs.
Perfect. So yeah, what do you guys think? What Ryan Fishkin had to say about voice SEO? Does that make sense now? You know what he was trying to say. For deep content or information, right? A screen is a much better interface than any kind of voice, because the most important thing is it definitely is anticlimactic, Amay, right? Because what you need to understand is that, especially for deeper information, scanning content and viewing content is much better. Would you guys agree with that? Type in A in the chat box if you guys agree with that, right? So scanning content and viewing content is much more better. And to a large extent, I believe if your brand is seen, it has a much larger impact than it is heard, right? Of course, there's a lot of different sonic branding, that, this, and all of those things. Yes, it is there. There's definitely an element to it. But seeing a brand, feeling a brand, looking at it has a much bigger impact than, about hearing the brand, right? I'll be sending you the link to the interview also. It's a great interview. We spoke about a bunch of different things in terms of SEO, slightly more advanced techniques and strategies about SEO. I'll be sending you the link. Please check it out whenever you guys get time, apart from doing the assignment itself. But please do check it out, right? But yeah, podcasts have a brighter future because it's a completely different kind of a thing, right? So we are talking about voice SEO here, wherein you're looking for immediate information. So long form content, audio is definitely much better. Audiobooks, podcasts, and all of those things. Long form content, it definitely has a place. It definitely has its advantages. But in terms of search, it doesn't seem to be living up to the hype that had been created by a lot of people for a very, very long time, right? So that's the point I'm trying to make here. But having said that, it definitely has had an impact on the behavior of people who are searching for things online. That is definitely the case, because what is happening now with all of these things, and somebody also mentioned it in the chat box itself, search queries are longer, more conversational, and natural language, right? So they're much longer, more conversational and natural language. Again, it comes back to the point what we have been trying to do so far anyway, right? I've been trying to tell that, hey, just focus on making it user friendly. Don't make it like search engine friendly. Talk to the users, converse with the users, communicate with the users, and all of those kind of things, right? It just sticks to the same lane that we have been following so far. And since it's become more natural, you have a higher chance of naturally ranking for voice SEO and voice results, more importantly, than doing anything else for that matter, right? And he also talks about zero clicks. What is zero clicks? Basically, like, who is the Prime Minister of India? And you don't actually click on any website. Google itself provides this information. Or what's the weather like in Bangalore today? Google itself provides the information. You don't actually click on any website and go to a link itself. Google itself is providing all of this information. So which is what zero clicks is all about. But voice search has a positive impact on local SEO. Do you guys want to take a guess as to how it has had an impact on local SEO? Maps? Yes, of course, maps. Near me? Yes, absolutely near me, right? Banks near me, ATMs near me, petrol bunks near me, pharmacy near me, whatever it is, right? You just like open it up, restaurants near me, all of these things, right? That it has definitely had an impact. But like I said, the use case of voice SEO is very, very minimal right now. Most of you guys also are using it to like play music. Most of you are setting alarms with it, or do something, do this, do that. Very, 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 very simple, right? So because the information that you're going to get back from whatever machine that you're interacting with, you can't like sit and listen to it like for like 3 hours. You rather like quickly scan it and like view it and like then go with it, right? So that has definitely had an impact. And I interviewed Rand in 2019, I suppose, if I'm not wrong. It's been like 2-3 years now, and it's the same kind of impact that people have, right? Even people still use it the same way. So it's kind of like died down. People are like hyping voice SEO like it's going to be the future, blah, 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 but doesn't seem to be the case, right? Now, having said that, it's still a good idea for you to know how to optimize for voice SEO. The first thing is try to write longer content, right? 2000 plus words, because the more content you have, the more natural it is, the more questions and answers you will be able to like answer. Look for keywords that are triggering featured snippets. I'll show you what featured snippets are. So this is one of the feature snippets that I have, how to become a content writer. If you scroll down past the ads, this is a feature snippet, right? So a practical guide on how to be, this is one of the feature snippets that I have gotten. So if there are keywords which are getting triggered, if there are keywords that are triggering feature snippets, there is a high chance that you will get a voice result for that particular keyword as well. So if you want to get any kind of voice result, say if tomorrow your client is going to come and say, or your boss is going to come and say that, hey, why are you not optimizing for voice SEO? What do you guys say for that? You know, yeah, it's a good thing to do, but it's not necessary, because the effort that you're going to put and the impact it has is so minimal that you would rather go out there and do something else. But having said that, whatever you're doing, if you go ahead and do it, you are going to be in a much better position, which comes to our point of FAQ schema, right? Apart from structured data, you are actually going to benefit from voice search if you add in FAQ schema, because the way you interact with Google search also is going to be mostly questions. So if you provide specific answers to specific questions, especially the ones that trigger snippets, you are in a much better position to gain some voice results for that matter, right? Write content naturally like you speak, add a lot of long tail keywords, not even long tail keywords, long tail keywords, improve your site speed, which you obviously will be doing, improve domain authority, which you'll be learning in the next 2 sessions. If you do all of these things, you are in a much better place to, get some kind of voice SEO real estate, right? So yeah, that's what voice SEO is all about. So again, I know it's kind of underwhelming and anticlimactic, but it is what it is. I can't like, go out there and change the market for you guys. So, and I don't want to like kind of like paint this picture that voice SEO is going to be the future. Go there, do this, do that, and like nothing happens to you guys. I don't want that to happen to you guys. So it's important for you guys to be equipped with the right knowledge. And if you come in any part of your life, in your career, where you have to make a decision whether you have to explicitly work on voice SEO, you know how to approach it, right? This is how you need to do it. So yeah, that's basically it when it comes to technical SEO. How was the session today? And with that, we are 50% done with HIIT SEO. Let me know in the chat box how technical SEO part 2 was, and I will reveal the assignment. Just wow, says Avinash. Overwhelming, heavy. Oh, great, overwhelming. Awesome, says Malikarjun. Very heavy, feeling like a professional now, super informative, heavy but important. Yeah, that's the way I would describe it too. Might be heavy, might be overwhelming, but it's important. Wow, yet little heavy, will sleep and digest. Probably a good idea. Definitely go ahead and watch the recording again as often, as much as you can. Make use of the Q&A session as well. That's deep and clear. Separate skill in itself. Absolutely is. Definitely it's a separate skill in itself. Overwhelming 40%, insightful 60%. Very nice way to put it in. Thanks for that. Heavy but interesting, awesome, but how to write 2000 words? Need mentors. We'll see the recording again and we'll be good to go. Fantastic. Who's ready for the assignment? Awesome. Fantastic. Let's see what the assignment is. Obviously, you need to go ahead and install WP Rocket plugin and enable all the options showed. And through that, you need to achieve a score of 85 plus Google Page Speed Insight. Add a before and after screenshot. Add a before screenshot, add an after screenshot as well. You'll be able to see like the heaven and earth difference. But before that, install Cloudflare also. Okay. So before that, install Cloudflare and then go ahead and do the after screenshot for Google Page Speed Insights. And you thought there is not going to be an article. How funny. There is, of course, going to be an article also. Write a 1000 plus word article that is on page optimized with an 80 plus rank math score. add the article schema will automatically be added by Rankman, so you don't have to do anything. But FAQ schema to the blog post with a minimum of 3 questions and answers. So this 3 questions and answers can be part of the 1,000 words. It need not be separate from the 1,000 words itself. 3 questions and answers, and add a screenshot of the rich result pages. I showed you guys the tool, how to do it. I'll be sending you the link also. And deadline is September 28th, Tuesday, 6 p.m. You'll get a cashback of 1,000 rupees if you submit it before the deadline. All tasks should be submitted as always by the submission form, and the decisions are final. And you will find all the links available on sanjeshmana.com/hs-bfi-resources. Awesome. With that, we have come to the end of session number 5. Assignment seems easy. Yeah, it's pretty easy actually. You just have to like do a bunch of different things. And as long as you guys are able to follow the instructions that have been laid out in this particular session, you guys are good to go. Of course, the content needs to be based on a niche. That's okay. Stop asking that question. Of course, yes. I think I've made this clear plenty of times. Okay, Q&A. If you guys have any questions, put it in the Q&A box and let me answer. Is TLS related to lags caused due to slow loading? No, it's mostly about the visual stability like we spoke about, right? If there are certain things that are intentionally put, which kind of like makes the entire, or if the theme is like badly designed or something like that, if it moves the page or something like that, that is what TLS is. Loading is to do with your LCP and FCP only, right? And the other metrics, some of the other metrics as well. Can I use WP Rocket for multiple websites? No. Is caching somehow related to cookies? No, cookies are something different. Caching is something different. Let me not overwhelm you anymore. So caching is different. Do we need to do keyword research for structured data as well? Not necessarily, but you might be in a better position if you are able to look at people also ask and answer all of these questions as part of your FAQ structured data. Then you it's much better for you guys to like get voice SEO benefits and a bunch of different benefits. You might start ranking for those keywords as well. How to improve page speed for a non-WordPress website. Guys, for the last time, so everything that is mentioned here, the approach is the same. The way you do it for a WordPress website is just different thanks to the plugins and themes and all of those things in the WordPress ecosystem. If you have to do it for a non-WordPress website, you have to hard code all of these things and ask your tech team to do all of these things, right? So again, I'm not going to say all of these things again and again every single session. It's the same answer every single time. How to get pages / common topics showing in search results when someone searches our website on Google, just like the questions. I didn't quite get it, Insia. Can you give me an example so I'll be in a better position to answer it? Is there a limit to the FAQ we can add to one single blog post? Not necessarily, but obviously you don't want to add like 100 questions. Nobody asks like 100 questions frequently. If the client don't have Rank My Pro, then how do we do proper SEO for them? Well, buy it for them. That could be like one easy way to do it. And or tell them to buy it, especially if they have a WordPress website. Tell them that, hey, we need all of these things. How to optimize images? What are the best dimensions for images? There are no best dimensions as such. So there is a plugin called as Imagify. There are a bunch of plugins. Okay, you can check out Imagify, Smush It. All of these things actually. I'll be putting it in the chat box. All of these things make the whole image optimization much more easier for you. So you can like make the images smaller and things like that, and you guys are like good to go with that. In Cloudflare, we have to add names. No, you don't have to add anything in Cloudflare. So Cloudflare will give you new name servers, which you then have to take, go back into GoDaddy, delete the existing name servers, Replace them with the ones that Cloudflare has given you and then save it. That's what you need to be doing. See, honestly speaking, the biggest benefit of Cloudflare is the DNS service that they give, which is much better than most of the premium DNS services out there, right? So that is the most important benefit. The CDN part is WPX takes care of it like automatically, so you don't have to like worry about it. I mean, if it does give you a CDN benefit also, just think about it like this. You'll be like spread across many more servers. That's about it. Yes, WP Rocket will be lifelong. Not seeing any traction on my blogs. By when do you think I'll start seeing some results? Please share what you know from your long-standing experience. See, this is the kind of question that clients also ask, and I tell them the same answer. For the 6 months, for the first 6 months, don't expect anything. Okay. If you do get something, consider it as bonus. I won't even take credit for it. But now it all boils down to what kind of keywords you've chosen. Right? If you have chosen keywords which are easy to rank, then you might be in a much better position to actually go out there and start seeing results immediately. But if they are very difficult keywords, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to start seeing any kind of results. Rohit, I'm a little confused with the schema markup. Do we need to install a file like robots.txt? No, you don't have to install anything. So as part of Rank Math Pro itself, you can add the structured data for your blog post. I showed you how to do it. All you need to do is use that option to add structured data. What we saw today is how to add FAQ schema. You can do it for other markup also, but just do it for FAQ schema for now, and then we'll take care of the other things later on. Can we work on improving website design and aesthetic side by side? Not right now. Finish this first. I strongly recommend you finish this first and then move on to that. Like I said, Jackson is going to be taking a separate workshop on it. If you guys are interested, please join his workshop. He'll tell you guys actually how to do it. But for now, just focus on SEO. It's a bit different question, but I think it's the right to get to know how to stay updated with Google's update now and after this. See, honestly, guys, which is why I don't even mention about Google's updates and algorithm updates and all of these kind of things. If you focus on the users, you don't have to worry about Google's algorithmic updates at all. It's just like it's meant for websites which are not up to the mark. If you follow all these steps that I'm actually telling you, you will be up to the mark and there won't be any kind of problem whatsoever. So just keep that in mind because Google has many, many, many updates coming and going. So as long as you're like doing everything mentioned here and not going beyond this in terms of doing something shady, you're good to go. For website speed, whatever showed is enough, or other steps are more than enough. You'll notice it yourself. Just take a before screenshot of Google PageSpeed Insights and do it after screenshot, and you'll see the difference clearly. So structured data allows Google or the crawlers to understand what your content is about, especially say, for example, okay, this piece of content is FAQ. This piece of content is the reviews. This piece of content is the price. This piece of content is the time it takes. All of these different pieces of information on your blog post. So when you put structured data to your blog post, it helps Google's crawlers to actually understand it better first, and therefore index it better, and therefore also display it better on the search result pages. Does that make sense? Yes, WP Rocket is mostly used for speed optimization. Questions for the blog can be LSI keyword, absolutely can be. The people also search questions, or we need to create. You can use the LSI keywords, or people also search questions also, either one of them. Don't use the responses. Don't put the same content as the responses. You need to create separate answers for them. Is it true that Google puts new website in a sandbox for some time? Some people say it, some people, I don't think so. To be very honest, I don't think it does. So for people who don't know, a sandbox is basically like, it does not apply any of the algorithms on a new website, and it sees how it performs for a while, and then it puts into the search results. So it doesn't do that. I have seen websites which are brand new already start ranking. So I don't think it does that. How do I gauge whether all these technical SEO aspects are taken care of? I mean, you can test it, or you can just ask that person, whoever is doing it, whether you have done it or not. You can do a Google PageSpeed Insight test and see how it is performing and see whether they've actually done anything in terms of all of these things or not. You can choose the content from the old 5 keywords, or if you want to go ahead and do a new keyword research, feel free to do that. No, structured data is not related to sitemaps. No, FAQs will appear wherever your website is appearing. Not only on the first page, you can second page, third page, fourth page, and all of those things. Great, fantastic. I think we have done with all of the questions. Yep, we're done with all of the questions. So thank you very much for attending session number 5 of HIIT SEO batch number 5. I hope you guys have a good time in session number 5. It's going to get only better for the upcoming sessions. We're going to be talking about off-page SEO, link building, and all of those kind of things, which a lot of you people are excited about. I can clearly see it. Ram Lokesh, I've already answered that question. So yeah, thank you very much. And I'll be sending you all the links mentioned in this session on an email. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourself, do the assignment on time, and get your cash back. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Until then, bye-bye. Good night.